Hey guys, in this video we will be talking about APIs, and in this tutorial we will create an API using PHP. So we will have a database, there is going to be a web server, it's going to be the API, and then we will have a website, we will have a web page. Here we can have anything. We could have a mobile application and just use the same API, but this is what we will do in this video. We will have a web page which is gonna interact with the API, and then the API with the server, and the server with the database, and then it's gonna select the data from the database, and after that just return it back to our web page. And also we will be able to submit, so we will create a form to submit the data to the RESTful API and then insert it in the database, and after that just return the whole data with the new data from the database to our web page. So as a quick demo, I have here a web page with a to-do list, and here we also have a table which has the things to do, and below this table we have a form which has two fields. The first one is for to do, and the second one is for the date. So if we insert something like, let's say, go for a walk, and then choose a date, and then we click add, we see that this appears below the other ones. So we have the number, this is the ID column, the to-do column, and date column in this table. And all this data comes from our database, but first of all we call an API, and the API we can call it the backend script. It's the backend is built in PHP. It is on a separate subdomain, which is api.ruvictor.com. Right now we are working on web.ruvictor.com, but the API is on api.ruvictor.com, and then we have the database which is connected to this subdomain. Here we have the PHP script. So all this data comes from this table, using this API, and then it outputs it right here. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just gonna remove this table. I'll delete it. I'm still gonna leave the database though, but I'm just gonna delete the table, and I'll create another one from scratch. So we have the to-do table here, which is gonna have 3 columns. First column is gonna be for ID, the second one for to-do, and the third one for date. The ID is gonna be integer 10 length. This is gonna be the primary key, so we wanna check the auto increment checkbox, and then the to-do is gonna be a varchar 500, and then we have the date, which is gonna be 20, a varchar as well. So here we click save, and that's how we created the table in our database. Now I'm gonna delete everything I have in so this is the API ruvictor.com. So you see I will delete these files from here and the ones from web.ruvictor.com as well. So if I'm going back to my page and refresh it right now, it tells me that file not found, access denied. And now I'm just gonna start on my web.ruvictor.com. I'll create a new file. This file is gonna be index.php, and I'll have another file which is gonna be actually, let's start with this one. So I will just edit this file, and here I will have an HTML5 page like this, but I also want to import the Jquery and Bootstrap. So I will paste them here. Libraries, I'm assuming that you know how to import them. If you don't know, just search in Google for Jquery import and then the Bootstrap import. And then in our body here, in the body page, we will have a table. But first of all, there's going to be a div class which is going to be container, and here we will have little styling, and it's going to be the margin top is going to be 30 pixels, and we'll just close it here. And then in this div container we'll have a title which is going to be to-do list. So I have h3, and this h3 is gonna be align at center, and we also will have style here, which is gonna be the margin bottom is gonna be 20 pixels, and here we will say to do list. Now below this list we will have a table, and this table is gonna have a class which is gonna be table. So this class comes from Bootstrap, and also we will have the let's say table head. This is gonna be table head, and we'll have class here t head dark. Alright, table head, and then here we will have the first line from our table, first row. So we have here the columns now: th table head scope column th, and we will have two more columns, and this one is gonna be for ID, the second one is gonna be for to do, and this one is gonna be for date. Alright, and now here we will have the table body, and we will leave it empty for now. Okay, and then below this div class container we will have a JavaScript, and this JavaScript is gonna use we will have Ajax, the Jquery function, which is gonna call another file with PHP file. That file is gonna be output.php, and then in that file is gonna call the API. So let's go ahead and create our script, JavaScript. Right, we have the script here, and then here we will have the document. So when the page is ready, when the page is loaded, we have here a function like this. Alright, feels like we have too many parentheses down here. Okay, now it looks good. So here we have another function, which is output data, and then in this function we have the Ajax function like this, and here we have the URL of the file where we want to send this data. So this is going to be output.php, and then below we have the success function in case everything went well, this file is being called and we got the response. Then we have another function here which is gonna output the data, so we get the data and we will output it in the table body, section. So we have this tBody tag HTML data. Alright, now let's go ahead and call this function. So we want to call this function right away whenever the page gets loaded, and we have output PHP. So I'm gonna save this file and see how it looks like, just making sure everything is good. If I refresh the page, we see the table here, title. Let's inspect, and we have an error because it doesn't find this output.php file yet. So this is what we will do now. We will create this file, create new file, output.php, So in this file we will have PHP tag. So we open the PHP tag, and then here we have to use the CURL session. In order to access an API in PHP, we have to use the PHP native function, which is the CURL. So we have a variable which is client, and we assign the CURL init. We initialize the session right now. And here we have the URL to our API. So as I said before, we have our API on api.roovictor.com. So this is what we have here: http api.roovictor.com/ we have API handler.php, and then there's going to be another variable which is action, and we assign to this variable the output data. We need this action variable. Having this action variable, we will be able to call another function from an API object. That function is going to output the data from the database. So just keep going like this with me. You'll understand later what I mean by this function. And then here below we have the CURL underscore setup, and this one has 3 parameters: client and CURL opt underscore return transfer. So here one, and then here we want to execute this session. We have a response, and we assign it to the response variable. And here we have the client, and then below we assign the response to another variable which is going to be a result. So we have the result variable here, and whenever we get this response from the API, it is in a JSON format. It's in a JSON format, and we have to decode it, and then after that to assign it to the result. So here we use a PHP native function which is JSON decode, and here we have the response. Alright, now below we will have another variable which is going to be the output, and we will assign an empty string to this output variable, and then after that we will check if we have any data in our result variable. So we have count result. If count result is greater than 0, that means there is some data in our result, and using the for each loop we will assign all this data to the output variable. So I have for each result as row, and here we have the output. Alright, this way we have a new row in our table. And then here are the columns. So we have td, close it, and we have to concatenate because here we will insert some PHP variables. So we have the row ID, and we need 2 more. Another one is gonna be for the second one is gonna be for the to do, and the third one is gonna be for the date. Alright, but in case we don't have any data in our result variable, we will assign to the output variable just a table row. We have a tr here, and then we have a td, but this column is gonna have call span 3 columns, because this is gonna be like just one column on all 3. It's gonna cover all these 3 columns. And then here we will align the content to the center, and here is gonna say not found. Alright, looks good. Now just check everything one more time. We got the client, CURL init, api.roovictor.com, API handler.php, action output data, row execution, CURL return transfer 1, JSON decode. Alright, looks good. Let's save it. I'm just gonna confirm it. And now let's go ahead and create the API handler.php file. So we go under our API subdomain, and I'm gonna create another file here, which is gonna be the API handler.php. And I will also create another file which is gonna be api.php. Now this API file is gonna have an API object. It's gonna have an object, and we will call it API. So we have PHP tags. We have class API, and then in here we will have a function which is gonna handle the connection to the database. So we have function, let's say db connection. And here we will have actually above this function we will have a private variable which is going to be connect, and we will assign an empty string to this variable. Alright, and then we have the db connection function here using the this variable and the connect variable, kind of the connect method, we can say like that. We assign a new PDO object, and this object is going to have all the data we need to connect to the database. So here we have the type of the database, in our case it's MySQL, and we have the host, which is localhost, and then we have the database name, DB name, in my case it's party club hyphen and underscore API, and then here we have the user, which is the same as the database, and then we have the password. In my case it's web API. Alright, looks good. Now here we will have another function, which is we will have a construct. So we have function construct, there is no parameter for that, and then we will just call this db connection function. Alright, looks good. I'm just gonna save it like this for now, and we will open our API handler.php file. And as you already know, we call this file like we call this file API handler.php file from our API. This is the file we call from our output.php file. Now here we will have PHP, of course, so this open the PHP tag, and here we want to include this API file. We include the API PHP file, and then below we will have a variable which is going to be the API object, and we assign the new object which is the API. So we assign all the object from our API.php file, and then here if you sell this action variable, we assign it output data. Now we will have an if statement which is going to check if we have this variable in our if the data assigned to this action variable is output data, then we will call a method from this object. So we have if get action equal to output data, then make sure I don't misspell it. Then we assign to a variable data variable, we assign the output data method from our object. We didn't create that method yet, but this is what we do here. So we have the object and then method output data with no parameters. Now let's go ahead and create this method in our API.php file. So here below our database connection, we will have another function which is gonna be the output data. So we have function output data with no parameters, but here is the function this is the function that's gonna select the data from the database, and we don't have anything right now in our table. Yeah, we don't have anything in our table. So here let's assign to the select variable the prepared statement. So we have this connect. We use the connect is the connection to the database. So using the connection to the database, we want to prepare a query to the database. And we have here select everything from to do table and order the data by ID. And then below here we'll have another if statement. If this query is being executed successfully, so we have select execute. If this query has been executed successfully, that means we've got some data in the database. We found something there. And then here we have another we have a while, which is gonna be the row, and we assign to row we assign to the row each row from our table, from our database table. So we have row select fetch, we have PDO fetch assoc, and here we have another variable which is data. This is an array object. We have a row here, so we assign the row to this data variable. So every time this while is gonna run, this data is gonna get a new row, because this is gonna be an array. So and by the end we will return this variable. This is gonna be full object, a full array. So we have data here. We return the data now. And having all this stuff here, web API, DB connection, everything looks good. I'm gonna save this file and this API handler, of course, too, and I'll send them to the server. Alright, everything looks good, and now whenever I refresh, it should show here something, at least not found, if we don't have any errors, but it looks like there is some kind of errors. Alright, now our output.php file, we should echo this variable. That's why it doesn't show anything right now. So we have echo output. Okay, let's save it. Let's check the API handler, and we'll get the data, but we also don't echo the data here. Sorry about that, guys. It's already late. And okay, so here we should have another echo, and we should use a PHP native function to encode this data we get from the database. We should encode it in a JSON format. So we have JSON underscore encode, and here we have the data. Alright, let's save it here. Let's check API one more time, and here we have another. You probably saw these errors, guys, before, but I just didn't see it, so I'm just gonna save all of them. Okay, I send them to the server, and now if I go back and refresh it, now I see that I have this entry from the database which has the to do and then the date from here. Alright, guys, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video, where I will add a form below this table, and using that form we will be able to insert the data into the database.